What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Gustin Time. I am your host, James Gustin, as always. Boy, if your week has been anything like mine, it's been a fucking crazy week, huh? Jeez, I've been working around the homestead quite a bit. Yeah, cleaning up stuff outside. Had to get ready for Independence Day, which was yesterday. I'm recording this on Saturday. A few hours before I start doing my live UFO watch tonight. It's going to be live, but it's over by the time you see this because I'm going to be posting this on Sunday. Oh, so a lot of stuff in the news that I'm not going to talk about because I'm sick to death of hearing about news. It sucks, all right? Everything's going to hell. We all know it. Probably has something to do with the Kali Yuga coming to an end. That's just my thought. Anyway, what are we going to talk about today, you ask? Well, I've promised this for months now. Today is part 1 of 3 of the Paul Bennewitz story. The first part, we're just going to talk about Paul's early life. Nothing involving UFOs at all. We're just going to talk about Paul. Okay, because it's important. It comes up and it means a lot later in the story to know a little bit about this guy's backstory. Because if you know anything about the Paul Bennewitz case, you've probably thought, well, that guy was just fucking nuts. But I'm going to change that perspective a little bit, I think, with this 3-part series on Paul. I'm going to call it the Bennewitz Trilogy. If you haven't noticed, I'm all over social media now. I've got a fucking TikTok, I've got Instagram, I've got Facebook, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Snapchat, I'm fucking everywhere. And let me tell you, for one guy doing this by himself, it's a pain in the ass, okay? I don't know if you heard that or not, but my cat's outside my door. He's like, what are you doing in there? Talking about you Paul Bennewitz and UFOs. Go train, Dr. B. I know Jimmy G's got you on that fucking high-protein diet for his stupid-ass cat racing. Anyway, yeah, if you haven't seen it, I let Jimmy G promote his new Worldwide Cat Racing League of the World on my TikTok page. I don't know why I deal with that guy. You know, so he's just... I don't know what to say about Jimmy G. Anyway, let's jump into this Paul Bennewitz story, shall we? All right, so Paul Bennewitz was born September 29th, 1927, somewhere in Kansas. I don't know where, nor do I really care, because if you've ever driven through Kansas, you know what I'm saying. If you haven't, it's really flat and boring. Okay, nothing to see, really, in Kansas. Unless you like... you know, wheat fields and super Walmarts and truck stops. I mean, if that's your shit, then by all means, take a road trip. Go through Kansas. While you're at it, head north. Go through fucking Nebraska, too. You can't tell the difference. They're all the same. All right, anyway, Paul had a PhD in physics. So, he wasn't stupid, okay? Physics, I'm very interested in physics, especially... astrophysics and quantum physics, and quantum physics is where it really starts to get fucking stupid, okay? Nobody knows why it does what it does, how it does what it does at the quantum level. Quantum entanglement is one of the weirdest things I've ever read about. Most of you probably know it better as what Albert Einstein called spooky action at a distance. So, if you have a PhD in physics, you're probably pretty fucking smart, right? So, in World War II, Paul was a radio electronics engineer for the Coast Guard. So, he knows a lot about radios and how they work and signals and frequencies and all that. And that's going to become very important in this story, so remember that. All right, let's see. He moved to New Mexico somewhere around 1953 with his wife, Cindy. And in 1966, Paul acquired the rights to a humidity sensor from Sandia Labs. That's right, Sandia National Labs, where there was some, World War II shit going on, if you know what I mean. Let's talk about humidity sensors for a minute. They're everywhere now. You have one on your phone probably. It will tell you the humidity of where you live. I was in the cigar industry for a few years, and humidity is very important for cigars. It's an everyday object now, but back in 1966, it was probably pretty cutting edge technology. So he was very excited about getting this humidity sensor. I don't know why, but he was, and so he has that. Big deal, right? We'll see. Let's see. He founded Thunder Scientific in April of 1981. Let's see. It was based in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is where our story takes place. His company was actually profiled in the Albuquerque Tribune about his company, which was worth $1 million. $1 million company in 1981. So not only does he know about physics and radios, he's obviously a pretty good businessman if his company's worth $1 million in 1981. Also, might I just say, Thunder Scientific is a badass name. Fucking badass. All right. Let's see what else here. His business declined, going from 30 employees in 1970 to about 18 in 1981. So in 1981, with 18 employees, his company was still worth $1 million, even though it downsized dramatically. I know I said we weren't going to talk about UFOs, but I'm going to talk a little bit about UFOs. And it's more about Paul's background than it is about what happens to Paul. So we're going to show you how he got interested in UFOs before we tell you all about the crazy fucking shit that happened to Paul Benowitz. In the 1970s, Paul joined APRO, which is the Aerial Phenomenon Research Agency. There was a cattle mutilation wave in the 1970s also, and that he got involved in that a little bit. And let me tell you about animal mutilations a little bit. Okay, let's set the stage for that. I know you guys probably know what it is. Okay, it's cattle that have been killed and looks like they've been dissected with a laser. A lot of the soft tissue is missing and typically there's no blood. Well, the first massively famous animal mutilation case was actually outside of the town where I was born. Alamosa, Colorado. The one that put animal mutilations on the map was the Snippy the horse case. And the fun thing about the Snippy the horse case is Snippy the horse was not mutilated. The horse who was mutilated, his name was Lady, which was Snippy's daughter. So yeah, a lot of people don't know that. But yeah, Snippy did not get mutilated. It was her daughter, Lady. My favorite thing about that case was the newspaper headline when it hit. The first newspaper headline read, "UFOs killed my horse." Yeah, that's pretty fucking cool. I mean, that sounds like something you'd see on the tabloids these days. I thought that was pretty great. Let's see. Attorney Robert E. Thompson and Senator Harrison Schmitt had a public meeting with 80 attendees about the cattle mutilation wave that was going on in the 70s, and Paul decided he would go. He met Highway Patrolman Gabe Valdez, who was investigating the mutilations. If that name sounds familiar, It's probably because you have watched a few documentaries about UFOs and cattle mutilation and abductions, because Gabe Valdez is a big name in New Mexico in that area. Let's see. Let's turn the page here on the notes. So it was at that meeting in the 70s that put Paul Benowitz on the government's radar. So he shows up to this meeting with Senator Harrison Schmitt and, everybody else. And that's when the government starts to look at this guy. For obvious reasons. I mean, he's a successful businessman. He's got a PhD in physics. He was in the Coast Guard in World War II, and he was engineering radio equipment. So someone that smart getting into this weird shit is going to raise some red flags, which is cool, because that tells me I'm not smart, because I'm into all this weird shit, and as far as I know, the government's not looking at me. Maybe they are. If they are, hi government. All right, let's see. Well, I think we're going to stop there for today, because after this, we've got a little bit of his background, how he got into UFOs and cattle mutilations. The next step is starting to get into investigations and things that he experienced. And I think we're going to save that for part 2 coming up. Probably tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, thank you for tuning in to Gustin Time. I hope I gave you a little bit of information. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoy talking about this stuff. I have handwritten notes, by the way, so when I'm over here looking like that and turning pages, it's because I hand write my notes. I look shit up and I read about it out of books on the internet, and then I write it down in, I'm just going to show you here, one of these. So this is my show journal, and I got a bunch of shit in there for a bunch of future episodes. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to focus more on current stuff going on after this series, just because everyone's heard about all this old shit. I mean, I could go pull out my UFOs and science book from Stanton T. Friedman, and we could do a whole fucking show on that. But you already know about Stanton T. Friedman. May he rest. A great dude, classy guy. I have my book autographed from him. But, we don't want to talk about that stuff. There's a lot of UFO stuff going on in current times that we need to talk about. One of which I really am excited to talk to you guys about. It's Skinwalker Ranch. Yes, that Skinwalker Ranch from Bigelow Aerospace. It was known as the Sherman Ranch. However, the Shermans, that was not their real last name. It's out now. I'm not going to say it on Gustin Time. I'm going to call it the Shermans, the Sherman Ranch, Skinwalker Ranch. Because I don't want to cause anybody any undue attention. They changed our name for a reason when this stuff was talked about in books and documentaries. And I'm not one to put people on blast. Anyway, remember, when you're walking around out there, none of this makes any sense. And I guess for today, I will see you in time. Gustin Time, that is. Peace!